everybody, and welcome to the Masters of Real Estate. Today, I have a really good friend on the line, Daniel Deville, a good mentor of mine that has helped me with my business. And today, we're going to talk all about business operations, selling businesses, lending, real estate, and all different types of strategies that you can deploy in your investment portfolio and your businesses to be able to help you to grow, to become a better entrepreneur, to make more money and not make the same mistakes I know Daniel and myself have both made 1,000 times, right? So,
Yeah.
how do we help you become better investors, better business operators? And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. And how do you set yourself up for success to be able to sell a business too? That's super exciting to me to learn from you, Daniel. I know you've done that multiple times. And but
Yeah.
before we get into some of that stuff, I'd love to understand a little bit about you, your background, what got you into entrepreneurship, and kind of push you to that next level. And nice cowboy hat, bro. That's pretty
I'm
awesome.
telling you, part of being an entrepreneur, it's actually ingrained in you to be a cowboy. Whether or not you actually wear the outfit, that's entirely up to you, but you got to go a little wild, wild west from time to time if you're going to be successful in this.
Nice. So you basically are taking the whole lion and be a tiger thing to the cowboy level over here and said, no, you got to be a cowboy and go get after it, right?
That's exactly right. I grew up wearing my cowboy hat pretty much every single day. And I think after I killed my first rattlesnake, I felt like it was official. But these days we live here on a ranch in San Diego, a great horse property. It's a different world. I like the concrete jungle. I like to own in the concrete jungle because it's a lot less complicated
Right.
than it is dealing with septic and acreage. But when it comes to my lifestyle for myself and my family, we're happy here.
That's nice, man. So you have horses on your ranch and stuff like that, and livestock and that kind of stuff?
I just yesterday finished our new chicken coop, so that'll give you some idea. We're getting rid of a rooster, so if you know of someone in need of some fresh chicken, definitely let me know. But yeah, my background, as you had asked, Matt. One, thank you so much for having me on. This is fun. I always regretting the fact that we don't get to spend more time together. So if us having to book an hour like this every couple of months is the way that we make it happen, couple of years even, I'll be glad to do that. But
It's awesome.
my background, I'm like many people who come across real estate. Your first interaction with it leaves you with a very bad taste in your mouth, and that was absolutely the case for me. I grew up with my dad being, 35 years a vice president over at Coldwell Banker. And my first interaction with real estate was taking little flyers, stuffing them into plastic envelopes, and getting paid 10 cents per flyer that I stuffed. Then, just to add insult to injury, my dad would take my friends and I out, throw us in the back of an SUV, and we would have to run up and down streets. And for another 10 cents, we could hang those flyers on doors, which was, needless to say, not a whole lot of fun for a massively overweight, younger version of Dan trying to run up and down these hills in St. Louis, Missouri. But I digress. All of that led me to believe that real estate wasn't something I wanted to do, but in working on the houses that my dad had acquired over the years as a broker and a vice president there, I realized there was something special about what he was doing.
Hmm.
I was doing all of the work, and yet he was the one making all of the money. And when I realized over time as I grew up that he had 80 plus doors and that he had a constant pipeline coming in because he had agents all over the nation that were sending in deals that were honestly helping someone else while helping himself. I
Right.
found that to be something absolutely beautiful.
You
So
can make money by helping other people at the same.
that's
If
it.
you add value out there, that's the whole point of, entrepreneurship and capitalism is to help other people and make money by helping others. And it's really an interesting thing that you were able to see that early on. My grandfather actually grew up in real estate and owned apartment buildings, and that's how he was able to retire. But
Yeah.
his first property, he partnered with the banker that put part of the deposit down with him on that
No.
first, building, and scraped by to be able to pick that thing up. And,
Yeah.
it stands at a great area of California. We still own it to this day, which is pretty crazy. But you realize by seeing it, and I wasn't involved in that transaction. My grandfather
Yeah.
was an attorney, but being able to see it from a
Yeah.
younger age and see the entrepreneurial spirit in a family member really pushes you and at least gives you a potential, guiding light. And I know you have daughters, and we had talked about, how you're talking with them about how do you start businesses and what things can you do do to make money and thinking differently about adding value in different ways. And it's
Yep.
exciting to be able to see that from an entrepreneurial standpoint and realizing, hey, real estate is not the easiest way to make money for
That's
sure.
right. That's right.
It's very
Well,
difficult.
that's right. And honestly, oftentimes it's a great way to grow wealth and to see it actually perpetuate itself, especially for generations. But my background prior to ever actually boomeranging back around to real estate was through starting businesses by looking at the world and seeing an opportunity to do exactly what you just described. How do you create something that has a market fit that will actually help and improve the world in some way, shape, or form? And if you're good enough at doing it and you build a business model that actually is a profitable one, you can make a lot of money in just serving people. So we did that with headphone company, with sports equipment company, and then eventually focused in very specifically on military members and veterans with a business partner of mine who is a Marine officer. I just had a desire to see military members and veterans get the opportunity to have a piece of the American dream, but to do it with a bunch of agents and representatives that weren't just out to make a buck from them while
Right.
they were doing it. So that was the final company we had in the series of entrepreneurial adventures that I've had. Each of them has had, we'll call it a successful outcome, but more important than the end outcome of acquisition, merger, things like that, was every little outcome along the way, every little client, every little customer that we had the opportunity to serve and either brighten their day or dramatically change their financial futures.
What's really interesting, in addition to adding value, when you're talking about adding to a company's value and being able to create a company that is worth something long term, that's available to be sold at some point, or has the ability to be sold at some point, you really kind of touched massively in that discussion about the culture that you create within the company and the expectations. And a lot of people think, hey, everybody's out to make money and that's all they care
Yeah.
about and that's all they really want to do. But if you realize, if you run your business in a different way where you're adding the value first and
Yeah.
literally giving more service than you're actually paid for, right?
Yeah.
You actually can create so much value, and you are the guiding light for your company as a business owner, for example, to set that expectation for everybody in your company to be that guiding light
Yeah.
also, which is really creates a massive business that is going to be successful because of that sole reason.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to have the operations and the right business structure and all that, of course. But at the end of the day, the cultural piece of that is really
Yeah.
what shifts you
Absolutely.
into a powerhouse that,
Yeah.
is going to be successful long term.
Yeah, there's not a single business that I've ever had or that I currently have that has not been entirely made not only successful but profitable and sellable without understanding that the greatest resource that I've ever had in any one of my companies wasn't a product, wasn't a business plan, it was a person. It was
Right.
the people inside of the organization that were doing the work. And so ultimately, when I look at my businesses, I've got one role. And granted, this is true of me as a CEO, but this is also true of everyone else. If you have any sort of leadership role, your job is to love your people. It's truly that straightforward, that
Hmm.
simple. Sometimes love looks like money. Sometimes it's a monetary policy that you build into the company that's rewarding people. In my organizations that I own to this day, kind of an unspoken internal rule between myself and the ones where I'm the sole owner or myself and business partners and others is that I never want my people to ask for a raise. I never want someone, and in fact, no one has ever had to come to me and say, Dan, I've been here for this amount of time and this is going on that. Can I please have more money? I seek every opportunity that I can get as justified by, the P&L to be able to go to people and say, hey, you're doing a great job. That excellence should be rewarded. Here's more money. This is true for every one of you. Okay. So if you're a business owner, investor, whatever leadership role you may be in, that's one thing. But even if you are a W-2 employee working for somebody else, the best possible thing that you can do is show up every single day with a huge smile on your face. Be thrilled about whatever it is that you're doing, even if that's actually having to fight hard and grin and bear it to be that, but it will get noticed. And then be excellent at whatever it is you're doing. And I promise you, that there's a lot more people like me that are out there, like Matt that are out there, that are looking for the opportunity to award and reward people who are just walking in excellence and doing so with a smile on their face. You'll never ask for a promotion. You'll never ask for a raise. And ultimately, money becomes cheaper. Life gets sweeter. Your marriage gets better. All of these things come from carrying yourself in that way.
It's really interesting that you're saying these things. Being able to uplift the other people in your company is the most important thing, and being able to rely on them to be able to do those positions by giving them what they need to succeed. And so many entrepreneurs and business owners, and I know you've done it, I've definitely done it way longer than I should have ever done, which was grind yourself and
Yeah.
don't focus on training, and don't focus on diving deep and helping people because they're so in their bubble. And I still get caught up like this sometimes and find myself take a step back, start training, focus on
Yep.
training all the time and helping others lift you up instead of you doing all the work yourself, which is that entrepreneurial trap, right? You can
Absolutely.
think, forget it, it's going to take them too long, I'm just going to do it. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
it'll take you 10 times longer. And not just that, think about the income you're giving up from doing those things versus
Yep.
having your team do that, and being able
Yep.
to be transparent and have the vision of your team. And I love how you said whatever the financials will allow me to do, I'll be
Yeah.
able to give raises and give more money to people. I'm even transparent about where we're at financially and what our goals are, because everybody knows in our company, here's what our vision is, this is what our goal is going to be, here's where we're at and where we got to get to, and here's where we're at right now. Until we get there, like,
Yeah.
we're going to be penny pinching and pushing and grinding, and me too, I'm not taking a dime
Yep.
out, right?
Absolutely.
But when it comes down to getting to that point, that's when we all win together,
Yep.
and we all create that freedom in our life. It's interesting, we go out and we try to help people create financial freedom through real estate investments, but we're
Yeah.
also doing the same thing for our internal team and trying to train them and teach them about the strategies they can use to become free with us,
Right.
and work with us long term to create
Yep.
this goal and this vision for all of us, where all of our money, all of our expenses are covered completely by cash flow long term,
Yep.
whether we work for it or not. And that's the
Yep.
idea for individual investors that invest with us
Yep.
as well as our team. And so
Yep.
having that vision of being able to create freedom really
Yeah.
sets everything apart. And that's what's really cool about what you were saying, man.
Yeah. I think there's something, freedom's a big part of it. I think safety is another big
Yes.
part of it as
Yes.
well. And I think of it, my team makes fun of me all the time. They say that they call them denologies because right on the spot at any given moment, I come up with a new analogy. So this is yours for today. But I think of it like a boat. Okay. So a boat is going along. And when the boat is going through the water, it's breaking the surface tension. So that motor in that boat there is doing the work of actually propelling itself forward. Now,
Mhm.
if you are someone that is on that boat or wants to ride behind that boat, if you've seen before, they have these wakeboards that you can literally just place on the wake. Because as soon as that water surface tension has been disrupted and put through the motor, you can get a line of people that are actually just cruising right behind it. And that's really the safety of following a great leader. That's the safety of following a great
Right.
entrepreneur. So it's okay, by the way, if you are someone who is riding on the wake. That's literally what the business model of someone like OCG Properties is doing. They're saying, we will be the ones to go and actually break through the surf. We'll break through the waves. When things feel rocky, we can be the ones to navigate that and bring you along with us. We had that same conversation this week. I'm in escrow or not in escrow. I'm in the process of remodeling another flip literally right now. The guy's calling me as I'm sitting here because he's buying flooring, but he's going to have to wait for a minute. But I'm sitting there in my team meeting yesterday, and I'm describing to the team the nuances of this particular deal. And this isn't to be, puffing myself up. This isn't about like bragging or anything like that. This is education, because the thing that would mean more to me than anything else isn't that anyone on my team ends up working with me and working for me for 20 or 30 years. What matters to me more than anything else is that I give them a pathway to call me one day and say, hey, I'm out of here. I have the ability to retire and be financially free. And
Mhm.
if I can be a part of helping to coach them into that and understand how they can use both their own skill sets that they're gaining by working with and for me, but then also to be able to take other people's money, their own money, mash it together and create value, whether through enterprise, through real estate, whatever tool in their arsenal that I can bring to them. that is what I would consider to be a life well lived.
It's really interesting when you talk about the business owner and the employee relationship aspect of things. I can't help to think about how naive I was when I was quitting my CPA firm job to start my own company and thinking, "Hey, no, this is I'm going to be free. I'm going to have all this free
Yeah,
time, and I'm going to be able to control my future and build wealth without
yeah,
stress." And you realize it's just the furthest from the truth, right? The thing that the business owner goes through is in the emotional swings and up and downs. I mean, I had to meditate every day in the morning at 3:30 in the morning, going through stuff and struggling with ups and downs, and you
yeah,
doubt yourself. You just hope you're doing well like everybody else, right? Or you hope you're doing the right thing and
yeah,
trying to do as best you can, just like everybody else. I look back at my old CPA firm job and I'm like, wow, the pain that I was dealing with, the
yeah,
monotonous stuff that I felt bored with, really
yeah,
was a mindset thing because I couldn't find joy in the actual activity that I was doing. I wasn't excited about that activity or that thing that I was doing. And there's things you can push through in every business, no matter what, of things you got to push through that you don't really like doing. But it's a matter of the mindset of you going through it and saying, I'm going to get this right, or I'm going to focus on this and enjoy it. And actually, there's no reason not to enjoy it, right? And realize that, hey, if you're in an employee relationship like I used to be, at the CPA firm, you realize that, hey, it really wasn't that bad. That pressure and that weight and those emotional swings weren't there for me because I'm getting a salary and I feel comfortable and safe in that position.
yeah.
And so looking back, it's not as clear cut of a trade off, even if you get far more wealth
That's
from
right.
dealing with those emotional swings. I probably aged an extra 10
Well,
years in that time. So
no one would ever guess that you're only 60.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
No, there's so much truth in that. There's a military expression that says officers eat last. And that's something that plays out in the military that,
yeah.
if you're enlisted, if you're doing your thing, you're going to be in the chow hall and you're going to be eating your meal long before any officer is actually stepping up there to get their food. And for darn sure, the same thing is true whenever we are, running a business. And in fact, way more so true. And often when you're on the inside and you're seeing this income and this revenue coming in, and I've had businesses that were $100 million businesses. So if you're sitting inside of that business, you're going, "Oh man, these guys are making so much money," and
Yeah, they don't
you don't
realize
realize
behind the
the
scenes.
fact that we just placed a $10 million PO for a brand new shipment of earphones that isn't going to hit for 90 days, that we're going to have paid for before it ever even actually gets into our warehouse. And then we got to manage that against the fact that these three retailers owe us $22 million and they're slow paying us, but we still have to pay you. So we're holding on to an entire year worth of operating expenses. So every dollar that's coming in, yeah, maybe it looks like it's sitting there, maybe it looks like it's available, but in the meantime, while all of that looks to be happening, I'm eating ramen noodles and telling my wife that if she wants bubbly water, get a straw.
I've told my wife for the last 20 years since I quit my CPA firm that I'll be retired in 2 years, babe. I
Yeah.
promise.
Oh
It'll
yeah.
be 2 years,
Yeah.
and then I'll be
Yeah.
done. So you realize the ups and downs that you go through and what you have to kind of break through as an entrepreneur from a mindset standpoint. I think it really comes down to when you're running a business or, in life generally, you have to know there's going to be swings and you're going to get punched in
Oh
the face and you're going to get knocked down. And it's a matter of your mindset of how you train your mind to move forward right when you're in the middle of that pain, right? Like I
yeah.
had a contractor about 3 years ago or so steal $500,000 from us that,
Mhm.
was emotionally, I've taken previous hits. So
Yep.
emotionally, I was shocked. After a few days, I was able to just wipe that off my shoulder and say, forget
Yeah.
it, focus, don't stress about that. Yes, we sued him and won in court and all this crap. You realize that during those times, your mindset shift, like our mindset shift during that process, shifted me into a couple of additional income streams that
Yep.
because I'm like, how do I make this money back right now? How do I shift my mindset? Forget
Yeah.
about the loss, just make sure it never happens again. What can I learn from this? But what
Yeah.
can I move forward and make money now on? And
Yep.
it shifted us in a whole nother ball game into 10x what we had lost previously and what we were able to create on the income side by refocusing our
Yep.
efforts in more efficient ways, less stressful ways. And don't get me wrong, there's still stress. It's just less
Yeah.
stress. So
Yeah, I know without a doubt, adversity in my life, no matter what shape or form it has taken, has been the single greatest motivator for me. has been the single greatest educator for me. And without that adversity, I wouldn't be a fraction of the man that I am. The easiest way that I can think of it, I'm a big hiker, rock climber. Okay, so I'll go and do multiple 1,000-foot climbs in Yosemite
Nice.
and other places around the world. Not for the faint of heart, but what I will say is the best views that I have ever seen have come after some of the most grueling and enduring feats that I've ever had to do. And if it were not for my willingness to go through the hard parts, I would have never seen those views and I wouldn't be the same man because of it.
It's really funny. Those hard parts are the things that really, really matter. You hear this all the time. It's the cliche, right? You got to push through the hard parts and, of course, delayed gratification and, pushing through hard things to get to the gold on the other end. It's the things I try to put in my son's brain too all the time, saying, you have to go do the dishes because you're going to feel better about this later. So he's like, shut up, dad. At the end of the day, you realize those things, and the more you can push yourself through those things and get out of your comfort zone is not only, yes, you put some stress on yourself, but you become really, really strong by doing that and consistently doing that. I saw somebody the other day, they mentioned, how it comes down to, like, if you're in the gym, right, consistently, all the things you need to learn in life can be taught by pushing through and lifting really heavy things at the gym and mindset. Because, for example, going to failure on every single rep on every exercise you're doing, or, the finishing of every exercise, to do
Yep.
that for an entire workout, 100%, extremely mentally trying, right? Like the hardest thing in the world to do. But if you can push through that, the
Yeah.
gains you get are just phenomenal, right? And you could apply that to every aspect of your life. If you could push through long-term focus on a project, right, for 3 hours straight and just grind it, like, you
Yeah.
think about how much you accomplish in 3 hours of, like, really grinding time of focus, right? It's painful, but when you get through it, the benefits are insane.
That's exactly right. I can relate to each of those analogies because those are all the things that when you start to live an introspective life, like you start to learn a lot about yourself. And if there's another just piece of advice I can give to anyone who is watching this, don't live an unexamined life. Wake up each day. For me personally, it looks like a journal. I actually get out a journal. I go through highs and lows of whatever happened in the last 24 hours. And I've even taken to the habit of underlining the things that were most significant to me, whether I knew they were significant at the time, or if I even just had an inclination that this might be something that I need to revisit later. And then it takes me about 6 months to finish a journal. And I go back at the end of that 6 months and I read through the previous journal, specifically focusing on those highlights. And every single time that I do, I learn something new about myself. I learn what drives me, what motivates me, what was creating success inside of my businesses, what's creating success inside of my marriage, the ways that I'm failing. Unfortunately, more often than not, failing than winning as a dad. What did I scream at my kid yesterday? But then what did I say to them when I put them to bed that just made them realize just how loved and cared for and protected they
Right.
were? And by examining those things, what I've been able to do over time is engineer a life that capitalizes on the things that I do know that are filling me and fulfilling me, the things that I'm doing well, the things that are producing the greatest outcomes, while giving me permission and data to say no to all of the things that are not. It's at least a 6 month cyclical thing that I'm becoming a better and better version of myself, becoming a happier and more fulfilled version of myself, coming on Matt's podcast at least once during that time, so we actually get the chance to hang. All of it is it's great, and I would tell you that if you're not doing something like that to really reflect backwards and not always just be looking forward at what's coming next, we are A-type driven entrepreneurial people. It's so easy to go just full steam ahead, but you got to take time to slow
Uh,
down and look
I
behind you as
think I
well.
think doing that consistently, like you're talking about it, writing down what your wins were for the day or the week, always looking back at where you came from, because it always feels like a momentous uphill battle when you're trying to get to your goal, but you don't realize how far
Yep.
you've actually came, in that process. And now you can basically put all that stuff into ChatGPT and use AI to
There you go.
extrapolate what your goals are and just give you your stuff right away. You're good to go. So,
Yep,
and I
absolutely.
actually, I think the self analysis is really important trait of an entrepreneur, to look at yourself and not have your ego get in the way and stop you from finding out your own problem, what's in your head, because you can self-analyze and swallow your pride. And when you can do that, you actually have a chance of succeeding, of changing, which and growing as a person that way. I do the same thing. You're like, dang it, shouldn't have yelled at my kids, even though they've asked me for the iPad for the 9,000th time in 5 minutes. And you're like, that's
Yeah.
enough, or interrupting a meeting to do it. Right. So, and those are the things you're just like, calm yourself, go
Yeah.
tell them, no, you can't do this, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I think that self analysis is really the key. I took some Kabbalah classes a long time ago that really kind of laid that in light, to say, always look at yourself first. Every reaction that you have, instead of being reactive, focus on being proactive and saying, I'm going to control my reaction
Yeah.
to this thing. Most of the time, people that you think are trying to harm you, or you take something the wrong way, there's not intent there, right? And you have the control over your own reactions. So what I tell my daughter, when she's hyperventilating, upset about
Right.
something, you have the control. And she's like, I don't have the control, Daddy. I'm like, yes, you do. You have
Yeah.
the control.
We teach our kids those things, but we often forget that we still need to learn those lessons. Yesterday was Memorial Day, or 2 days ago now was Memorial Day. And every year for Memorial Day, my wife and I will do this workout that's called a Murph. And the Murph is in honor, I believe the man's name was Michael McMurphy. He was a special operator, a Navy SEAL, who passed in the line of duty. And his friends decided to create this workout in his honor. And now it's an international thing that every year on Memorial Day, people do this workout. You run a mile, do 300 squats, 200 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, and then run another mile. Okay. So it's not for the faint of heart. Well, my version of not for the faint of heart means I went to my wife and my kids and said, we're all doing this together. And from my 3-year-old to my 11-year-old, 4 daughters, they all said, this sounds miserable, but we're in. Now, the lesson they had to learn 5, 6 times, maybe 10 times throughout the course of this workout is they would get to the point where they were truly at failure and they couldn't go any further. And they came to me expecting just to be done and saying, hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm hurting here and here and here. And the tears, the waterworks, all these things. And what I kept reminding them, Matt, is exactly what you were just saying. I said, listen, guys, ultimately, it is your decision on how you are going to respond in this situation. You can react to the pain that you're experiencing right now, or you can choose to slow down, take a breath, maybe rest for a second, and respond by deciding that you are bigger than this pain. You are bigger than this struggle that you're going through right now, and that you still are absolutely capable of finishing this thing that you've committed to, even if it takes you 5 times longer than what you were originally anticipating or planning. And I had to
That's awesome.
remind each of my daughters multiple times. Each of them came asking for permission to quit. And I'd say, hey, Deville's don't quit, and take as much time as you need. You said yes to this, so let's finish it. Over time, every single one of them got through it. We had modifications galore, but at the end of the day, I'm okay with modifying. If we're so set and staunch in our ways that we're not willing to take a pivot instead
Yeah.
of just always persevering, we've also missed the point. So gave them the flexibility of that, but each of them achieved something yesterday, even at 3 years old. That
It's
was
awesome.
really cool to watch. And in the end, if you ask them how the day went and how the workout was, they tell you they had a great time.
How do your shoulders fare from lifting your 3-year-old up for the pull-ups consistently
Oh,
like this?
man, it was
That's
something. Well,
awesome.
the great part was they chose, I think it was jumping jacks in the place of pull-ups. So
Okay, there you go.
they didn't, yeah, it was a little easier for them.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I have my son working out with me. Those types of things are important from a mindset standpoint. And when you're an entrepreneur, and especially I'd say real estate is even one of the harder businesses to run, then I
Yep.
think it's important to understand that mindset piece of things. And you've now done a lot of different stuff in real estate. Can you talk a little bit about some of your real estate experience and what you've done there and what you're doing now, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So now at this point, after many years hiatus from my childhood through to this point, now real estate is most everything that I do. So first and foremost, started as an investor and continue as an investor. That looks like a group of short-term vacation rentals where we just delight guests on a regular basis and create unique and awesome spaces, as well as unique and awesome experiences that even on a day like today, when a guest shows up with multiple pets, after hours, waking up neighbors on a no pet property, and you get to then deal with how you're going to deal with that. But it turned that into a positive outcome, and a little extra income is a great thing. Then you've got long-term rentals, which were, I think, where most of you are likely getting started. For sure, my first love, but I'll say a thing that I've been loving moving further and further away from over the years. As you start to realize there's just other incredible ways to put your money into real estate.
Right.
It can be more passive and produce even greater returns. Over the years, I also had for 6 years, a nationwide residential real estate brokerage that focused on serving military members and veterans. And there we had over $5 billion of real estate representation over the course of those years. Did a lot of good for a lot of people, but really focused heavily on education, which is kind of what leads me into what we do now. Out of that business, we continued on with a mortgage company. My greatest passion at this point in my life is having conversations with people who are just trying to figure out where they need to be going with their dollars, whether it's a primary residence, an investment, and the strategy that's needed to help and guide them in that. So I spend
It's awesome.
most of my time right now focused on, first and foremost, relationship, second, financial coaching and stewardship. Having been someone now that has found himself financially free from many great fortunes that have come my way over the time,
It's awesome.
that had really nothing to do with me. Like I said before, just great people, great timing. I now take that and I say, listen, how do I pass that wisdom, that knowledge, the hard knocks on to others when they're working with me on the lending side? And then the final part of it is I'm secretly just a huge nerd. And Matt, you experienced this firsthand when we were building spreadsheets for your business back in the day. Like a great spreadsheet with lots of variables and ability to manipulate it is like a sweet song to me. So to do that, to be able to help somebody to figure out how to afford a rental property or to get in their first purchase for their own residence in any circumstance, like it's a great delight.
That's awesome. Yeah, the mortgage industry is not for the faint of heart as well. You have to really
No.
have a lot of knowledge to be able to help people in their specific circumstances because there's so many nuances and so many additional potential funding sources, not just the traditional stuff that's out there. So having resources to do fix and flip loans and
Yeah.
rental loans on debt service coverage ratio requirements and homeowner loans and all different types of stuff, I think is important. And you understanding the realty side along
Yeah.
with the investment side and also the lending side is a
Yep.
massive value in itself. So really
Yep.
appreciate, you coming on today and explaining more about, the strategies you implement, how to get through business, get through business and life in general. And so
Yep.
thank you so much, man. How can people reach you if they want to get in touch with you or learn more about your mortgage company, man?
Yeah. So on the mortgage side, it's Dan at Cowboy Lender or thecowboylender.com. I have no idea where that name comes from, but that's the easiest way to reach me there. And then Instagram and all that good jazz as well.
Awesome. Thank you, man. And if anybody wants our 200-point due diligence checklist that we use before we actually go out and do due diligence on a project, whenever we're investing in new projects, you can go to our website, matthewowens.com, and we have that 200-point due diligence checklist you guys can download. We also have master classes on how to raise capital, how to analyze properties with putting 5 numbers in a quick analysis sheet and things like that so that we can help you guys in any way possible. Tons of education there as well. So hopefully you guys find that valuable. Thanks so much, Dan. Really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me.
Do you want to learn how to create financial freedom in your life through real estate and take your investing business to the next level? If so, you can follow us in one of the following ways. First, you can take one of our free webinars on how to analyze property, how to raise capital for real estate, and how to market and find deals. 3 of the key pillars to becoming a successful real estate investor. Number 2, you can join us on our mailing list where you'll get tips and tricks on real estate investing directly to your inbox. And number 3, you can take our 6-month real estate course that teaches you every aspect of real estate investing you can think of, and more importantly, create financial freedom in your life through real estate investing strategies that I teach. If you want a master's in real estate in 6 months, this course is for you. We're going to go over how to raise money, promissory notes, syndications, fixing and flipping, buy and hold investing, tax and legal structures, self-directed retirement accounts, financial education, how to run a business, how to market and find your deals, and most importantly, how to create that financial freedom in your life so that you can stop trading your time for money and create passive real estate cash flow that you can live off of. If you're interested, go ahead and click on one of the links below, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side.